Okay, so summer's around the corner, and I know you guys want to get shredded, lean, and also build muscle at the same time, of course. Everybody wants that. So I will just teach you simply and effectively how to build a summer body and how to actually shred off as much fat as humanly possible. Of course, not unhealthy amounts, but just getting that lean physique, that six pack that you always dreamed of, and just building the muscle at the same time, looking aesthetic, gaining the confidence to actually take your shirt off in the summer and actually for the first time also get a great tan as well, not being this pale ass motherfucker. Also, so you guys know, fat loss is fairly simple, but most guys actually just do it wrong. Either they do a crash diet and lose muscle, you will just end up as a skinny fat person and just losing muscle because you haven't got the right nutrients and the right protein intake. And second one is too much cardio and just a burnout in general. This equals just zero results, because first up, too much cardio can actually also burn too much muscle off, and at the same time actually just put on a lot of cortisol, which is a stress hormone for the body, which is not ideal for actually keeping your body healthy. When cutting, you need to have this optimized state for your body when you're actually cutting, because it is a harsh process that the body goes through, cutting off fat. So you gotta have cortisol as low as possible. Of course, not all the time. Cortisol is healthy at some points, but just not a high, extremely high amount of cortisol all the time with running 10 kilometers a day. That's really not how you burn the fat. How you burn the fat is actually just your diet. You just need to eat the right things. You don't need to burn 10,000 calories a day. You can actually just eat on a deficit with quality foods to get the right nutrients and macros, which is protein, carbs, and fats, right? And just healthy fats as well, and high quality protein. And the last one people mistake doing is eating clean, but again, you don't track your intake. So yeah, again, just spinning the wheels. Obviously, the cutting phase for 300 to 500 calorie deficit, you can easily eat over that if you want to, right? That's just some mistakes you guys gotta watch out for when starting cutting this summer. In this video, I'll really just give you the full plan of how you can get shredded and build muscle the right way and effective way, and also science-based, of course. 3 pillars for fat loss is really simple. First one is, of course, it's the only thing you actually need, right? But the 3 pillars to actually also keep it healthy at the same time. First one is a calorie deficit. This is the only way you will actually lose fat. There's also other ways, fasting and stuff, but mainly calorie deficit is the only reason you will lose fat. This just means eat fewer calories than you burn. This is really simple. You can start out as a beginner. I will recommend you do around 300 to 400 calorie deficit. This is 1 pound of fat per week you can lose. Advanced lifters to go around the 500, a bit more aggressive, but at the same time, people who hasn't really cut before, I recommend you to go a bit lower for your body to actually catch up and also still build some muscle and not tear up all the muscle you have just built, right? So you also need to have a great foundation before actually cutting. There's also some warnings with a calorie deficit. A too aggressive cut will actually also just equal in muscle loss, low energy, and burnout. And as I mentioned before, that counts as high cardio, intense exercises. And the second thing is a too small of a deficit. This just means slow progress and really just some frustration, right? And you'll probably just lose the motivation to actually be shredded, right? You need to have the balance between 300 to 500 calorie deficit. So the second pillar is protein intake. So this also is really simple and really simple to understand as well. Higher protein equals more fat loss, because of course protein actually boosts metabolism, also does reduce hunger, because protein is a really harsh, or a really hard for the body to actually burn easily. Carbs is a easy sort of energy. Protein is a bit harder and actually burns. A lot of the protein get burns from actually the process of converting it into protein that is absorbable to the body. It burns around 20 to 30% of the protein from actually converting the protein, right? So again, high protein intake, of course, that prevents muscle loss in a deficit, so you need to keep it around a good range. So for beginners, 1 gram per pound of body weight, that is 170 pounds as around 170 grams of protein, right? Advanced, you can go a bit higher, because it helps you still stay lean and actually build muscle with more high intensity exercises, and also for athletes as well, or just high intensity workers like boxing or martial arts or football or whatever you have. If you have any sort of extra sport outside of actually weightlifting, you should go around the 1.2 to 1.5 grams of pound per body weight. This is around the 200 grams of protein, right? Just to be really sure that you don't lose muscle actually while cutting, right? So the best protein sources you can use for having a high protein intake is, of course, eggs, steak, Chicken is also a great one for raw protein, not for micronutrients, right? But and also fish does contain a lot of proteins as well. Greek yogurt is also a great alternative for breakfast and just like having this moderate amount of protein, right? How you can structure the diet is really just lean meats and whole foods. This is really superior to like protein powder. I would not recommend protein powder because there's a lot of bad stuff in protein powder as well. If you can get it naturally, I will recommend you to do that. But of course, if you have no chance of buying lean meats or just whole foods and get protein through there, protein powder is a alternative. But again, I will not recommend you protein powder. So why protein powder is actually bad, right? First up, it also contains soylent and sucrose. Sucrose is this artificial sweetener. It's really not good for your gut health, and as I said before, the body needs to have optimized energy and optimized balance. Keep your body as healthy as possible through a cut, right? Because it is a drastic change in your body, so you need to keep it healthy. Which means protein powder is a no-go. It has sucrose and soylent. These two things is really just like either they soylent is bad for just testosterone and hormones in general. If you have no alternative and have a healthy protein powder and a 100% concentrated and a 100% protein, you should be good. But just check your label, right, to see what's actually in it. So a warning here is also eating too little. This again, if you have a too little protein intake, muscle loss will occur and you will just be skinny and not really have this lean body, but actually just become skinny. Of course, it depends on how much muscle you actually carry as your day-to-day, right? But also eating too much, this could also digestion issues, eating too much again with proteins. So again, find the balance between what your body actually needs and just not overeat, because protein can also get filtered out through the body, which means protein doesn't get used, right? I don't know what the limit actually is. I'll probably pop up a study here of what the limit actually is to how much protein you can obtain in a meal, right? So just aim for that. The last pillar for getting shredded this summer is strength training and cardio balance. You can shred fat through cardio, of course, and keep muscle by straight up just strength training, right? The science also says that lifting heavy, of course, maintains muscle in a deficit, so make sure you lift heavy and just not these high cortisol exercises, 15 reps with lower weights. Just keep it around like 6 to 10 max, right? To actually have this intense heavy lifting session, right? This would actually keep that more muscle mass if you train heavy. And cardio is also a tool, but not this fat loss driver, right? It doesn't drive fat loss, but cardio is a tool for if you overeat. Of course, you can go out and for a run, but I will not recommend you for going for too long of a run. Of course, also watch out for not stressing the body too much with high cardio. So again, more muscle equals higher metabolism and easier fat loss. This is really simple because muscle actually also absorb a lot of the energy is consumed, right? So if you have a huge amount of muscle, you will have a high metabolism, a high burning rate of calories. You need more calories to, of course, maintain muscle, and also just easier fat loss because again, high metabolism equals more burning, which means automatically you will also burn more fat, right? So best strategy for strength training and combining cardio with that. For beginners, I will recommend you to do like 3 to 4 weight training sessions per week. You can do heavy compound lifts as well, like squat, bench, and also what. Just keep your regular workout and just make sure your reps is on point and not just these high 15 reps, right? And cardio sessions could be, of course, I would recommend just a low intense exercise for cardio, but do it like 2 to 3 times a week or just before a workout, right? Just like a 15-20 minute incline walk or some sprints. Also does great with blood circulation for a good workout. Also, you could do a Stairmaster, of course, that burns a lot of calories as well. I do around like 5 to 10 minutes. That's actually around 50 to 100 calories just for an easy amount of walk, right? But for advanced lifters, okay, so you guys actually need to, of course, work out a bit more. That means 4 to 5 times a week. You need to weight train. Ideally, you can go 6 days a week, right? But I would recommend you to also apply some sprints. This means just some HIIT workouts, right? High intensity interval training. This is also 2 to 3 times per week. This is also just more effective than long cardio for, not spiking cortisol for too long. And of course, walking is essential to burning fat as well, and just not burning fat, but burning calories, right? Ideally like around 10K. But okay, so a warning here is also too much cardio, of course, leads to muscle loss and also hormone stress. As I said before, cortisol is really high in intense cardio exercises, so watch out for that. Too little movement is again slow fat loss, not keeping your body moving and burning energy and not keeping it active actually also just slows your metabolism down and just slower fat loss as well. Nobody wants that, right? So that was the 3 pillars for fat loss. So I'll just go through advanced strategies to actually get ultra lean this summer, right? First up, again, carb cycling for fat loss and performance. High carbs on training days is also just equal to better performance in the gym and martial arts, any like, you know, sports you do. Low carbs on rest days. This is really just timing your carbs correctly, which also just makes your body easier to, you know, stay in that calorie deficit and also just not an unhealthy deficit, because, you know, when you train again, you burn more energy, which means you actually need to cycle with a higher amount of carbs, right? So high carbs really just helps you with, you know, keeping your energy higher and better performance when you're actually working out, when you're on a cut, right? So you aren't feeling this exhaustion from, you know, having this low calorie deficit, right? And of course, low carbs on rest days. So the best approach I will give you is training days, moderate carb intake, high protein intake, no matter if it's rest days or training days, right? And moderate fat. On the rest days, I would go for lower carb, high protein, and high fats. And because I choose high fats, it's really just to, you know, fats is also so attacked in this society nowadays, but healthy fats really help support hormones, which is also really attacked through actually, you know, cutting, the cutting phase hormones do get affected a bit. So actually keeping the hormones safe and actually just, you know, keeping them healthy, you can do that through high fats as avocado and other, you know, high fats and just healthy fats, and fish also as well. So warning here is also, if you drop carbs too low, strength and energy again will crash. As I said before, you know, you need to time your carbs correctly and not go too low of carbs on training days. That will absolutely ruin your workout and your energy overall. Fasting also is a great essential to actually getting lean, right? Ultra lean this summer, but it is optional, of course, but I know it works. So science says that fasting actually helps control hunger, as well as just making digestion easier. So this just means morning fast and bigger meals later. So the best approach I will recommend you is doing a 16 to 8 fasting window. This means you need to skip breakfast, eat lunch and dinner. Black coffee in the morning actually does give your body a high cortisol spike, which is not ideal for, you know, being on a cut or just in general. But again, black coffee does kill hunger, so if you just drink it 90 minutes after waking up, you should be good. And another approach is break fast with a meal that is high in protein and healthy fats as well. Just make sure it's quality foods, because after a fast, your body really do scream for, you know, high nutrients and just like healthy foods, right? Don't break your fast with this low carb desserts or any like processed foods, right? A warning here is also a fasting plus low protein again equals muscle loss. So again, as I said before, keep protein high. As I said before, I already gave you the map for how much protein you actually need to take when doing fasting this summer, right? Of course, fasting is not ideal for everyone. It depends on your lifestyle and training. So if you have a high intense training in the morning, of course, don't fast. You can break the fast with, you know, moderate carbs and high protein as well, right? For energy. The third one for getting ultra lean and actually staying lean is sleep and recovery. This is really a forgotten one for, you know, fat loss and just like, you know, keeping your body healthy. But sleep is also a huge amount of the part that actually keeps you shredded and healthy. Science also says that bad sleep leads to more cravings, lower testosterone, and worse fat loss. So the best approach for getting good sleep is no screens 1 hour before bed, of course. Magnesium glycinate before sleep, that is what I use here. Really helps with just relaxing the nerves and muscles and actually just, you know, getting into that sleeping state, right? And also, of course, cold dark room with a consistent sleep schedule, of course. Don't, you know, cook your sleep schedule with like 2-3 hours after your normal bedtime. That means like, you know, at 10 p.m. you go to bed at like 1 a.m., right? That absolutely cooks your circadian rhythm as well. But a warning here is also less than 6 hours of sleep actually has a 30% drop in fat loss efficiency. Prioritize sleep always if you actually want to get lean and actually stay healthy while actually being lean, right? So common mistakes that really just will kill your fat loss. You can avoid these, and I will recommend you to avoid these at all costs, right? Relying on fat burners. This is just basically a scam, right? Fat loss really just comes from, you know, a diet, not really from pills. You can't really, you know, cheat the system. That is really just how it is. Green tea, black coffee, and proper nutrients is also better metabolism. Of course, green tea is healthy for your gut. Black coffee is also healthy for, you know, fat burning, and just proper nutrients also just helps your gut. Common mistakes number 2 is not tracking progress. This just means like if you actually can measure things, you know where you're going, you can track if you're on the right path. Get a overview of your weekly average. This actually gives you an overview of, are you actually on the right track? Just look at weekly averages and see if you're actually dropping weight, and if you're not, of course, adjust after that. You can also just see progress in the mirror. I hope so. don't chase like, you know, scale rate, because again, people are so obsessed about like, am I losing weight, right? But that's not what you should be focusing on. You should really just be focusing on fat loss. Am I losing fat and actually building muscle at the same time? That's actually the only thing you should focus on. Do the daily weights, but again, if you can see that you are losing size as well, don't track weight. All right, eat a bit more protein and make sure you're not losing any more muscle than you actually need to, right? So again, don't chase the scale rate. It's just a good measurement, but don't like get obsessed with, you know, I lost this amount of weight. Really, you should just be focusing on proper fat loss. And the third mistake is really just, you know, you're eating clean, but again, you're just overeating. Again, you can gain easy fat again through healthy foods still if you are in a too high of a calorie surplus. But again, it is hard to overeat on healthy foods, of course, because it is less calorie dense than you know, a cheeseburger, of course, with like 2,000 calories. You can get that through a whole meal that you probably couldn't finish if you're actually eating whole foods, right? And just track intake, of course. This also means just portion size, you know, just don't overfill your plate too much, you know. Control what you actually eat, right? And that shouldn't even be really hard if you actually just make some great foods. It is really not that hard to actually make great foods that's actually healthy. That's also a misconception that you need to eat these leafy greens. I don't even eat leafy greens, but I still eat healthy. That comes from, you know, chicken, meat, eggs, also rice you could do for carb intake, right? But healthy diets is simple. And it shouldn't really be as tough to actually get a healthy diet as it seems, right? But again, you can also overeat on, you know, clean diet. But again, it is much harder. Again, as I said before, fat loss isn't magic. It's just pure science, you know. Fat loss, and if you're in a deficit, you will, of course, lose weight. But again, science also supports that you actually need, of course, to eat more protein to actually lose fat instead of weight. Of course, we are focusing on losing fat, not weight, right? Keeping muscle, losing fat, that's the only goal for the summer, right? So with this strategy, you should have the capability to actually, you know, get shredded this summer and actually still hold on a lot of muscle mass, right? And I hope you got some good takes from this video. And that was really it for this video. I hope you got something valuable from it, and I hope you can apply these steps easily and effectively, and actually just get an overview of how you actually can get shredded and lean this summer without really any effort, right? But again, you still need to put in the work, of course. Here is the simple steps that you could use, and if you use them correctly, these steps I just gave you, you will 100% get lean and build more muscle still in the summer. I use the strategy alone myself to get shredded this summer, and I'll also track some progress as well, and also do some video progress on my cut as well. But I hope you got some value from it, and drop a comment below if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one.